many narcissists and toxic people self-sabotage? One reason might be due to the ego. I think often, even though we intellectually understand that our actions are going to self-sabotage, the reason we do it anyway is sometimes because our ego is the driving force behind the decision. The ego wants to preserve a feeling of superiority, a feeling of being in control. Sometimes it's not a good idea to let our ego lead the show. Sometimes it's better to do something that is counterintuitive in order to protect ourselves. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let's say someone accuses you of stealing. Well, our first instinct is to stand up and shout out, "I'm innocent! I didn't steal that!" But studies have shown that declaring one's innocence is equal, if not worse, than remaining silent. What happens is when we announced, "I'm innocent, I didn't steal those books from the library." Well, what's happening is they're not hearing you say that you're innocent. What they're doing now is they are actually picturing you in the library stealing books. I know, it's very confusing, but if you think about it, whenever we are reading a book, while we're reading about the characters, we are actually picturing the characters in our mind. We are imagining what they look like and what the environment is like. And that's why it's so common for people to get really upset when they've read a book and a movie comes out and then the characters in the movie don't look like they had imagined in the book. And it's, I think, similar to this. So what's happening is whenever we tell someone a story, people will immediately create pictures in their mind to go along with the story. So when we publicly declare our innocence, "I'm innocent, I didn't steal those books from the library," they are picturing you in the library stealing. Well, of course, this is doing the opposite of what you want. You want people to hear that you're not a thief. But what's happening is that these images of you stealing are now solidifying in people's minds. So instead of getting people to not think that about you by shouting it out, that's exactly what you're doing. You are imprinting this idea in people's minds. That's why a lot of times when we have been accused of something, it's actually better to remain silent and not to acknowledge the accusation at all. Because when we remain silent and we don't acknowledge that we have been accused of something, well, people then are not hearing about it again. People then are not thinking about it, and people will forget about it a lot faster. Before we make big decisions, it's important to ask ourselves, who is running the show? Is it my ego, or is it the part of me that is interested in self-preservation? Because sometimes, if our decisions are ego-driven, it's actually self-sabotage. Because a lot of times our ego wants to maintain this feeling of superiority. And that can be based on something very superficial. What is the priority? Is it self-preservation, or is it maintaining this public image of superiority? Because in my opinion, there's a big difference between these two driving forces behind decision making. That's it. As always, stay strong and get toxic people out of your life.